Alright, welcome to the next set of power rankings. I'm Rosa. Hopeless is the other person doing them with me. And we're doing the Meowth power rankings. We'll start at the bottom, work our way up. Keep in mind this is just our opinions. Don't get offended. And I'm sure all these teams could easily win all their games. So, further ado, Hopeless, how would you start us off with our last pick?
Alright, so our team in last place is the Washington Kingdress by our very own MJ with Mew, Togekiss, Crocodile, Milotic, Scizor Mega, Vikavolt, Horizon, Salazzle, Flygon, and Sableye. And the reason why he was so low is because he don't got a breaker. This is cut and dry. He will never break a fat team because his only breaker is a Mega Scizor, and then everything else is just gonna stall. He could break potentially with Subtoxic Salazzle, but then they're gonna know it's gonna come, so they'll have ways to out it. Those would be his two potential win cons in order to break teams, but other than that, he just cannot break. He also doesn't really have a good removal. What's his removal mod? Flygon or Togekiss? Mew does not want to run removal most of the time. Mew's gonna probably want to be offensive for this team. So we would have Flygon and Togekiss for removal. Next.
In second to last place is the Matsuma Swines, coached by Quadfather. This team is Zeraora, Landorus, Mega Gardevoir, Rotom Heat, B-Sharp, Blastoise, Roserade, Masprit, Toxicroak, and Dusknoir. This team is generally a decent enough hyper offense team. Part of its problem is that it lacks anything particularly strong. Its best breaker is a Mega Gardevoir. It's got good pivots, but not a lot great to pivot into. It just feels very, very weak and doesn't do a lot of damage for a hyper offense team. And if it wants to go a more bulky direction, Rotom Heat and Blastoise are definitely not going to cut it. So that's why we have the Mamoswines.
Next is the volcaronas, coached by Rob B. With Tapu Koko, Latias, Scizor, Mega Blastoise, Crobat, Incineroar, Mudsdale, Cofagrigus, Chestnut, Smeargle, and Lycanroc Dust. Now, I'm gonna sound crazy when I say this, but he does not really have removal. Even though he has 5 mons that can learn Defog, none of them want to run Defog. Maybe Crobat, but that's the best one. Tapu Koko, Latias, and Scizor do not want to run Defog. They want to run another 4 moves because those mons frequently suffer from 4 move slot syndrome. Blastoise is going to be running Rapid Spin every week for the amount of hazards he has on this team. He also really doesn't have a breaker. Mega Blastoise, again, is that breaker which is going to be running Rapid Spin every week. That's why he's so low. He has decent cleaners, though, in Tapu Koko, Scizor, and Lycanroc Dusk, so he has that going for him. Next.
Alright, next up is the Belfast Golurks, coached by Matisserie. This is an okay sand team with Dracovish, Thundurus Incarnate, Volcarona, Hippowdon, Mega, Aggron, Tentacruel, Umbreon, Hitmonlee, Whimsicott, Masquerain, and Jinx. My biggest complaint about this team is that it has Jinx on it. I'm kidding. The biggest complaint about this team is mostly just a sort of lack of direction. He's got a Sand Mon and a Sand Abuser, but Dracovish is not a great Sand Abuser. I'm sure you will hear our thoughts on Dracovish as these videos continue, but I don't think it's all that great, especially when he's got very little to support it, very little to lure the ground types. I guess Thundurus can play that role, but at this point, Grass Knot Thundurus is old news. And I think that this team also just struggles on a bulky side. Obviously, Hippowdon and Aggron are both very, very bulky mons, yes, but both of them suffer from distinct problems that aren't really checked by the rest of their team. Aggron with no real recovery, and Hippowdon with just like kind of a general passiveness. Umbreon can pass wishes and kind of help on that side. But I think this team will kind of struggle to get worn down by pivots, especially when they're moving around kind of the clunkier, not as fast offensive mons on T-Series team.
Next is the Melbourne Reshiram's, coached by Edster, with Mega Diancie, Corviknight, Hydreigon, Starmie, Donphan, Regieleki, Tangrowth, Exploud, Cinderace, Grappler, and Oranguru. One of my big issues is that some of his last picks being Grappler and Oranguru are just like, why? He could have got anything like just a better fighting type in general with those 5 points. And I don't really like Regieleki on this team either because he has nothing really to bait that ground type to come in. Like, he has Starmie and Tangrowth. I guess those two can punish ground types, but then you have a Mega Diancie, so they're gonna bring the ground types anyway to kill it. So Lecky kind of just feels like a mid-mon on this team that's gonna come one game. I like the Mega Diancie Corviknight Hydreigon. That's amazing. Starmie and Donphan are great. It was one of their goats. Tangrowth is amazing. X-Cloud is great. So with Cinderace, I just don't like Grapploct, Oranguru, and Regieleki. Next.
Next up, Brisbane Bidoofs, coached by Cobra Poison. This team consists of Zygarde 50, Weavile, Blissey, Tapu Bulu, Aegislash, Mega Charizard Y, Greninja, Hitmontop, Emolga, Seviper, and Meowth. So this team is, for the most part, a very, very good team. I'm going to start with the positives. This team's got great breakers in Mega Charizard Y and Aegislash. A decent enough cleaners in Weavile, Greninja to some extent, and good pivots too. Zygarde's great on this team. It's a good bulky team with the support for it. I really appreciate the thought that was put into Tapu Bulu. Generally, you got to make sure that you pick a ground type that isn't hurt by the Earthquake debuff when you have a Tapu Bulu on your team. Zygarde's a perfect option to that, because Zygarde can also hit ground types, which is something that Tapu Bulu, or flying types rather, which is something that Tapu Bulu struggles with. So in general, I think this team is fantastic. It's got one giant weakness though, which is that it has a Mega Charizard Y and a Weavile, both offensive mons that need hazards to be down, and it's got very, very little removal. It's got Hitmontop, it's got Emolga, and it's got Charizard Y. Charizard Y is never going to be running Defog, it should never. Hitmontop can Rapid Spin, which it's good Rapid Spinner, but Emolga is kind of bad and oftentimes won't be bringing Defog anyways. This team is going to get Hazard Stack out of Oblivion, and if they didn't have just such a huge weakness to Hazard, I think this team would be quite good. Hazards are just going to screw them out of existence. If I was going to be bringing heavy duty boots a lot, this team is just going to get loose to Stealth Rocks time and time again, especially with the Zard Y. As we predicted, Zard Y is going to get less kills than a lot of much weaker mons in this league, simply because it just really can't come in.
Next we have the Lightning Luxrays, coached by Nick, with Jirachi, Salamence, Rotom Wash, Porygon 2, Piloswine, Slurpuff, Galvantula, Empoleon, Emboar, Roselia, and Absol. Shout out to him for picking Roselia. But my big issue with this team is you don't got Rapid Spin with webs. Rapid Spin with webs is amazing because a lot of your mons would love to benefit from the webs. Emboar would love webs. Salamence and Jirachi would also like the webs as well because those are your two faster offensive mons. Everything else on your team is fairly slow except Mega Absol. You got Mega Absol, Jirachi, and Salamence for your 3 offensive fast mons, and Jirachi might not even be offensive on this team. He might be a wish passer, in all honesty. Slurpuff is okay too, but I'm not really a fan of Slurpuff, but that's just me. I like Empoleon. Empoleon looks great on this team. Yeah. Next.
Next is the Mount Goat War mons. Great name. Coached by LC. This is Tapu Lele, Tornadus, Tomo-O, Melmetal, Swampert, regular Charizard, Mega Beedrill, Florges, and Vileplume. This team reminds me very heavily of the other Mega Beedrill team that we have in the Wobbuffet division, in that it's a very pivot-based team that relies on getting in its breakers, namely Tapu Lele and Melmetal, and then winning the game with decent cleaners after, sort of the pivots have gotten in your breakers. I think Beedrill and Tornadus can both win the game pretty easily. Tomo-O can too. I think this team's got a good defensive backbone with Swampert and Tomo-O. It's got okay hazard removal too. Florges and Tornadus can both run Defog. I guess Charizard technically as well. I think that there are a lot of great things about this team. I would, however, have liked to see a different fairy type than Florges. I get that Defog was something you wanted, but this team looks like it's more of a bulky offense team, and I generally don't think you should be running those sort of very, very passive mons like, your Umbreons, your Chanseys, your Florgeses of the world. I mean, even Chansey would be better because it gets rocks, but I think Florges just does a whole lot of nothing except for wall things. You've already got a decent offensive fairy type, so really you just need a low-tier, bulky fairy, and then you can probably spend those points on something else, because I really just don't think Florges does all that much for this team.
Next we have the Gonzaga Gliscor. I hope I said that right. I probably didn't. You can get mad at me if I said that wrong. Coached by Crayfish, which Gallade Mega, Ferrothorn, Toxapex, Tyranitar, Moltres, Meloetta, Spectre, Lando Eye, Altaria, and Dusclops. And when I look at this team, it actually looks pretty good. My real big issue is Moltres is gonna have to be running boots every single week because you don't have removal. Lando Eye doesn't want to run Defog. It will almost never want to run Defog. It wants to run Earth Power, U-Turn, Sludge Wave, Rock Polish, or even Calm Mind, Nasty Plot, whatever else the other move slot is. It's not going to want to run Defog in that slot. So if you want to bring removal, you got to bring Moltres to that game. And that's very unfortunate. Altaria could function as removal, but Altaria is a 1-point mon. How often are you really going to bring your 1-pointer? I like the Mega Gallade, Ferrothorn, Toxapex. That's very fat. That might really be hard to break. Tyranitar is great. Can trap in normal types to help Spectre break as well. Overall, he is a pretty decent team, just no removal.
Next up is the Indiana Charissus, coached by Cardi. This team is Mega Alakazam, Celesteela, Tapu Fini, Garchomp, Serperior, Jolteon, Pangoro, Colossal, Weezing, and Poltegeist. Much like the best team in the Giovanni division, this team sports a good core of Mega Alakazam and Celesteela. And I think that that's just a very good core to build on. Celesteela is going to wall a ton of the tier, especially when combined with such a great wall as Tapu Fini. And then you just combine that with just amazing both breaking and cleaning power of Mega Alakazam, and I think this team is going to be quite powerful. It suffers from a couple issues, some hazard issues, a lot of low-tier things are going to have to remove a lot. Obviously, Tapu Fini is a great defogger. However, Calm Mind Tapu Fini, kind of a classic, very strong set that maybe it might not come as much as he might want. But other than that, I think this team is good. I think it has good endgame options in Poltegeist and Alakazam, decent enough breakers in Pangoro, and also the Alakazam, and it's got good enough bulk. So all in all, I think this team is good. A Wish Pasher would be spectacular on this team. Oh, he's got the Jolteon. A real Wish Pasher would be spectacular on this team, mostly because Celesteela and Tapu Fini both lack reliable recovery, but all in all, I think this is a good team, and I'm excited to see how it turns out.
So next we have the SoCal Scissors, coached by Fantasy Knight, with Clefable, Mega Medicham, Heatran, Gengar, Chansey, Rotomo, Noivern, Muckalola, Shelmet, and Gastrodon. He has all the pink demons, like goddamn. He has Clefable, Medicham, Chansey, Shelmet, and Gastrodon. And I'm calling it now. Shelmet's gonna get at least like 5 kills, just passive kills, just by hazard stacking. Team's pretty good overall. He has hazard stacking, so Mega Medicham, Gengar can break. Heatran can't even trap annoying walls. That wall Mega Medicham would just trap it with Magma Storm Taunt. Just kill it off. Really good. He should be winning majority of games. He has cleaners. Noivern is a great cleaner. Rotomo can function as a cleaner if you put a Choice Scarf on it. He can Pursuit Trap with Muckalola. Good team overall.
And in first place, basically to no one's surprise, the team that I would be shocked if they lost a single game this season, the Detroit Darkrai, coached by Azurine Rose. This might be the best team that I've seen in my history of Draft League. Dragapult, Mega Mawile, Sylveon, Mandibuzz, Infernape, Nidoking, Slowbro, Rotom Frost, Cradily. Yeah, I think this pretty much speaks for itself. First 7 mons on this team are all incredibly threatening. Dragapult, obviously, arguably the best mon in Draft League, definitely in the top 5, top 3. Mega Mawile, another top 5, top 3 Draft League mon. Slowbro, one of the best pivots, one of the best defensive walls in the format. Sylveon, great Wish Pasher, decent offensive threat too, with that strong boosted Hyper Voice. Mandibuzz is a great wall, good defogger. I think this team could use a little bit more removal, although honestly Mandibuzz is such a good defogger that it might not matter. Infernape spectacular on this team too. I might be entirely honest when I say I have no complaints with this team. This team is fantastic. Azurine should be proud of himself, and I doubt that this team will not win the league.